Period.
Angel Nieves is a former NYPD detective and says do not...
Everybody's looking for the monkey.
Yeah. So you
our smiles to give you a little bit of a brief.
Yes.
And welcome everybody to another episode of Your Pet Detective. I sort of jumped the gun earlier, so you saw us before we started running the video, but we have another show. And not only do we have another show, but our guest tonight, besides that guy over there.
The other way.
The other way. I'm pointing in both directions because
I know.
the same direction is very confusing.
Two ways.
And you'll see if I point with my right hand on his screen, it is the correct direction. On my screen, it's the opposite direction. If I point with this hand, then I'm pointing towards him. But anyway, we'll get it
one day. But
we'll
before we start,
get it one day. But that's
before we start, I want to brag.
Go ahead, Brett.
I was in National Choir. I did they wrote something about me. Here it is. The Pet Detective Collar Crew Dog Napper. It's an issue. It's in last week's issue. You want to pick it up. It talks about, dog napping and why it's on the rise, and it talks a little bit about me when I retired detective. I was a cop in the 4-0. It's a pretty nice article. I mean, I looked at it. I said, wow, I think about framing it. But let's go back to our
Angel's becoming a star, folks. I mean, he always was a star in NYPD, but now he's becoming national. And speaking of national, our guest today is Tina Madden. Tina is in LA, and Tina has had an interesting trajectory, interesting path to not only dog rescues, but to dog behavior and the business that she has now, which is, I would say that she's a dog consultant. Tina, is that the right?
She's a great friend of Cesar Millan.
Of Cesar Millan, and we're going to talk about.
I'm a great fan of his, so now I'm definitely a fan of hers. So here she is.
Well, she's had an interesting road to that. Tina, before Angel goes to the video, just tell us briefly about your connection to Cesar Millan.
Well, back in 2004, I decided I wanted to work with dogs, and I went to work at a vet in Malibu, and somebody handed me a Chihuahua they found, and I said, if you can't find his home, I'll keep him. He's cute, or I'll get him a home. We'll figure it out. And I brought him home, and he was not very nice to everybody, and I had to figure it out. So after trainer after trainer after trainer said, you need to put that dog to sleep, he's the worst I've ever seen, I became obsessed, and I found a Craigslist ad that said, do you have an aggressive dog? Do you need help? Are your friends and family ready to kick you out of their lives because of your dog? And I said, that's me. I thought it was written for me, and I applied, and it happened to be the first episode for the Dog Whisperer show with Cesar.
Wow.
Well,
and then shortly thereafter, I said, I really want to work for him. And I put that out there, and he said, come on then.
Well, let me show the first video.
Wow.
Because I got that video.
Yeah, and then
the day that I took Nunu and decided to keep him, my life changed. It started that day. I didn't realize it at the time, but I know now. It started to change that particular day.
If he's in Tina's arms and you go to reach for him, he will nip at you.
If he's on the couch or on my bed, you can't go near him. Anybody who walks in the house is pretty much fair game for him.
We've had him for, I think, approximately 2 months. and I've probably been bitten about 6 times.
Now pass it to me and put it right here, please. That's right.
Yeah, and that's the only way I could hand him off.
That's right.
It was very important to let him know that that couch wasn't going to belong to him anymore.
That's right, that's right. You're right?
My whole life, I've been the outgoing person. I would always get everybody together. I had a really active social life.
Yeah.
This kills me.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I didn't want a dog that did this to people. And then I started to gain weight.
So now,
Like that dog was possessed. How did,
I called him Linda Blair in The Exorcist.
yeah, I mean that dog was doing everything but spinning his head in, like, you know, they're doing the whole 360. So, man, I mean, how do you get around that?
I didn't know at the time. I thought, what am I going to do with this dog? Because I can't have anybody in my life. I can't even have a roommate. That was my roommate that you saw there. And I mean, he just bit her every time. I couldn't have anybody come take care of him for me if I needed to travel. And it was the days before dogs traveled with their people. I didn't know what to do. So in comes Cesar, and it all changed.
it is incredible, right?
Well, I don't even know where to begin, because your first instinct is you just want to grab that dog and go boom, 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 boom. But, you know, it's a dog and it's behaving in a certain way because it doesn't know any other behavior. So you can't get frustrated with the dog. Now, let's start with what Cesar taught you and how you have used that in your practice and what you do presently.
So basically, he identified me as being weak in the moment when he walked through my front door. And I am from New Jersey, and I was never identified with as weak. So when I heard that, I was just horrified. I was like, I'm not weak, but I had become. The older I got, the more weight I gained. Everything in I just kept going further down where, oh yeah, you could treat me badly. Oh yeah, you can do this. Oh sure, because at least you'll be in my life and I'll feel like I have people. I identified with gaining weight as nobody would want to be around you. So that's really where the weakness came from, but I didn't know that. And then this dog came in, and actually I was weaker in his presence than I was. Looking back now, I didn't know it at the time, but looking back now, he made me weaker because I felt sorry for him. And I thought he must have had this horrific life. And I don't really know that he did. He may have been owned by one person and just always been that way. I don't know what his life was, but all of a sudden I started babying him and letting him get away with it, thinking that he needed to protect himself and me. And I needed a protector at the time because I couldn't even stand up for my own self. So he basically told me, you can't be this way and help this dog. Wow. So I had to change, and it worked. It was because it's for a dog. And you think, well, this dog needs me to be a stronger human being for this dog. And I'll say that somewhere along the course of my whole journey with Cesar, I was in Oprah Winfrey magazine. I was shocked by this. And the woman was her, life coach. And her name is Martha Beck. And she wrote a story called Doormat No More. And she used me as the reference that I was a doormat for this dog. And she used it in her practice to help people not be a doormat anymore.
But you know, there are people who would take would take offense, I guess, at it, and I'm not defending them. I'm only using that as to kind of frame my argument. There are people that will say, well, you can't be that tough. The dog is behaving that way as a reaction. You have to show the dog love and respect, yada 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 yada. But at the same time, the dog is making your life miserable as well as people around you. So at what point you draw that line? You say, okay, look, dude, you're gonna have to change your behavior.
It took a while. Part of it was me actually just saying, I have to just get stronger for this. And the stronger I became, I created lists of boundaries. I couldn't believe how it just changed everything. And in the process of doing that, he didn't feel the need to protect me anymore. So did I really have to be tough on him? No, I had to almost be tough on me.
Right.
I find this conversation fascinating because what you're telling the audience is that your relationship to the dog basically changed your relationship with yourself, and
Absolutely.
That's how you were able to come to terms with who you were by coming to terms with that dog, and that speaks volumes. That just speaks volumes.
That little dog changed everything in my world. Everything. I still want to write a book about it. I just never seem to have the time.
Well, Angel, I think you wanted to say something.
Well, his procedures work. Your procedures work. Because I was once in Broadway Bark. That's like once a year down the Broadway show down 42nd Street. And this lady brought a pit bull. And the dog was from the ACC. And this dog bites. And she brought it over to show it to me and to the rest of the guys with a 6-foot leash. So the dog came up to me. So I put my hand out, let him smell me. He smelled me. She smelled me. I touched her and I put my head a little bit down and she leaped. Sitting down, she leaped and went for my throat.
Mm-hmm.
And she bit me here. I still got like a little scar from I can remember. Right here. And at that day, I'm a retired cop, so I carry a gun. But that day I said to myself, I'm not going to carry a gun. I'm going to leave it at home in case something like this happens. That's the mentality I got for animals, right? And so I went for my gun, and guess what? I didn't have it. So I was going to punch because I thought she was going to attack again. And she was laying down submissive. Like nothing ever happened. I said, Minga, look at this. I can't even punch the dog neither. And I'm upset. So I say, okay, let me calm myself down. Meanwhile, the lady screaming, holding the leash. And the dog bit me. I had a big gash. And the little girl, 6-year-old, walking to touch the dog because it's submissive. The dog got up and the hair came up. You know what I mean? I said, nah. I took the dog away from the lady. I'm still gashing here. I put the dog between my legs. I'm holding the dog. And the dog is doing my command. I took over this dog. If I was not listening to you or to Cesar, I'll be freaking out, running down the street, holding my face. You know what I mean? But I took control over the dog and took it away from her. And we took the dog, or we quarantined the dog because we didn't want the dog to get killed. But the ACC already has the dog. But if I didn't know those procedures, I'd probably even be talking to you right now. It was going right here.
Yeah.
And they got me here.
So
From a sitting position and leaped.
Before we continue, Angel, did you have more video that you want to show, or?
Yeah, let me keep showing you off.
Okay, so roll. So go.
This is the part. Hopefully, this is the part when you started working.
Okay.
The longer I stayed there, the more I knew that that's where balance was. You can't lie to the dogs, and you always have to be balanced to be out there. So I just little by little kept going out there, and I would watch Cesar's other assistants with the dogs, and I would see how they would work with them, and I would kind of just mimic that. And finally, Cesar just started to notice, I guess, and he said, "Do you want to work out there?" And I said, "Yeah, I do. I really do."
My very first show was Nunu and Tina. That's literally my very first show. And since then, when did you start working with me?
A year and a half ago.
A year and a half ago? I'm very happy that she's part of my pack. we have a lot of things in common. We have a lot of spiritual beliefs, a lot of instinctual beliefs, a lot of emotional beliefs. I am privileged that Tina is working with us. Really, she's very honest, good integrity, and so far very loyal. Just like a dog. That's what she's hired.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
So now my responsibilities at the center, I feed the dogs, I walk the dogs, I rollerblade with the dogs, vet visits, medicine, pretty much anything that they need.
Good job.
And when there's a dog there for rehab,
You know how to do it, Tina?
I work hand in hand with Cesar in helping rehab the dog. He comes up with the plan, and then I follow through.
Don't forget how we did it earlier. Now you directly are saying, you know, be friend of the wheels.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
There, look at that. Hey!
Some of the dogs that I still have a fondness for would be Luna. Cesar actually saw that, you know, she trusted me right away. He can't have 1 second right now. I was told to walk Baxter right away, and he and I built a relationship. And it was one of trust and respect. And
Wow. That's, you know, I think I'll keep saying wow, because what amazes me is how a simple act, maybe not so simple act, such as adopting a bad dog, became a personality changing experience for you, but also turned into a career. So you had this dog, you had Nunu, and then from there you work with Cesar Millan, and then eventually Cesar moved to another part of California that you did not move to, and so you started your own business. So what do you do now in LA with dogs? You have a huge roster of clients, and you can basically pick and choose who you want to work for. So tell us some stories.
Well, right now I do training and I do pet sitting. Because basically if I'm training the dog, they usually need a pet sitter. And I end up being the pet sitter. That came along organically. I started out doing just training and then a little bit of walking, because some of the dogs that I'd end up with, no one else wanted to walk at the time. Over the years, that's changed. You know, people have come out of the woodwork that work with dogs that are really rough. And I actually don't work with the rough dogs anymore. I work with the happy-go-lucky. I raise puppies. I do all that kind of stuff. I do get the behavior issues. And I kind of have a little referral base of people that help me, because I don't have a facility. So without a facility, I feel like sometimes there's dogs that are really far gone that they really need to go away and get full-blown training. And I can't do that coming to your house once or twice a week. So I just let it kind of flow into what I do now, which is training and pet sitting. And then twice a week, I do a doggy play date because it's just fun. I pick up the dogs and we go to a friend's house and they play.
Are there dogs that you refuse to deal with, that you won't take? Are there people, I should say dogs that you won't take on as clients?
I'll take anybody on as a client, at least for the first visit. And I always tell them before I even walk through the door, let's do one. Because if you don't like me and my methods, you should not even, don't try to convince yourself to do that. And when I say methods, I no longer even work with a method. I feel somebody called me an empath with dogs the other day. And I was like, oh, because I look at the situation and I say, oh, we got to go back here and work with this, which is a ball obsession that's causing all the problems with this dog. You take your dog to the dog park, you throw the ball, and another dog comes and he attacks the dog over the ball obsession. It's got nothing to do with aggression. You've created ball obsession. The dog, she's like, oh yeah, the dog puts the ball on my lap for 4 or 5 hours at night and barks at me. And I just keep throwing it so that the dog doesn't bark at me. And I'm like, well, you've got to stop. We can't have, then we'll reintroduce the ball in a month in a different manner. But the dog wasn't getting in fights with dogs when there was no ball involved. It was completely a ball. So
That's what she
No,
trained him for.
well,
Without knowing it, she trained the dog to do what he did. And then she says
absolutely.
something, the dog saying, "Why are you telling me this? You're telling me to do this."
Absolutely.
no, I'm laughing because I have a cat and I have a laser. I should show it. I have this laser thing, and she loves it. But I had set times when I had the time to play with it. And next thing I know, as soon as I get out of bed, she's coming to me when I sit down at the computer, and she's jumping on my lap, and she wants to play with the laser. And I keep telling her, "Look, we have to do it later. I don't have time to do it." But that kind of supports what you're saying about the dog and the ball, because unless you set boundaries, then it's going to go on and on and on all day, where they're demanding that you play with them when you have to do other things.
Correct.
I think that as pet owners, we tend to think, well, it's our fault, that maybe we should stop doing what we're doing and then cave in to what the pet wants. But according to what you're saying, that's a mistake.
Right. Because it's just like if you allow a person to control your life, they will, if they're that person. And our dogs, our cats, even, we live with them. And really all they have is us, unless they have activities that they go and do with a dog walker or a trainer or whatever. But they've got us. So we're the source of everything. They know when it's dinner time, they're going to let you know that they're going to come around the kitchen and be like, I mean, I'm going to let you know when it's dinner time. I'm coming to the kitchen at 5 o'clock if I'm hungry. They're hungry. They know. And we serve them dinner. But in some ways, that's giving in to everything. Obviously, we have to serve them dinner, and we do it at probably almost the same time every day. But imagine if it's 6 o'clock, you should be able to wait. I can wait till 6 to eat. They should be able to wait till 6 to eat. They shouldn't be standing there howling and barking at you because it's time for dinner.
Unless you live in New York. Because in New York, we got that change of time. So it's at 5 o'clock in the winter and it's 6 o'clock in the summer, or vice versa. So now the dog is barking at 4 o'clock, or it's supposed to eat at 6 or 5 o'clock. And you say, "Where you barking? It's not that time yet." Well, the dog doesn't know the time. He knows the time we're supposed to eat.
Their internal clock knows.
Yeah.
What's Tina? What's one of the most common problems that you see with pet owners? I mean, I know that you deal specifically with dogs, so we'll just keep it in terms of issues that dog owners have that you observe.
Well, almost every dog. Sorry, I'm moving my camera around. Almost every time I walk into a house, the dog jumps on me.
Oh.
Or on them, and the issues are different. Well, maybe they're not different, but they're a little different now than they were pre-pandemic, because they didn't get socialized in the pandemic. They also only had their people. They got their people only had them because we weren't really leaving the house. They learned to play. And as silly as that sounds, I still have a dog who's 2 years old that the husband comes home from work and that dog expects to chew on his arms. She doesn't hurt him at all, but she has an intensity about her that you think it looks awful, but it's their game that they play. But imagine if you walked in the door and the dog did that to you. Well, she tries. She still tries, because if you're going to play with her, she's going to be happy. So, we have to teach her to wait. When somebody comes through the door, you are not allowed to greet that person until you calm down.
Exactly. Well, we are getting towards we're winding down towards the end of our half hour. So
before we do, I want to ask one question, which is important. People always say, "My dog does not do this. My dog does not do that." Okay. My dog will not go with anybody, which is a lie, because a lot of dogs go with me. I just tap my leg, "Come on, let's go." It goes with me and dragging the owner. What do we tell these people? What do they tell them about their dogs? Leaving them outside, or thinking the dog is not going with somebody else and it does.
I always say your dog will be okay. And the more your dog can do things on their own, the more they won't be insecure. They won't be worried about things. They won't get separation anxiety from you. They should be able to go with anybody. You should be able to go over and take somebody's dog for a walk, and it doesn't
But I'm
send them
saying about,
into a panic attack.
but I'm talking about someone stealing the dog. That's what I'm
You
talking about.
know,
Like if the person says my dog will not go with nobody, ties it on a pole and leaves, and then that dog actually go with somebody.
well, they're not really smart if they tie their dog to a pole and walk away.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, that's not really good dog ownership as far as I'm concerned,
Not at all.
because an off leash dog could come up and we can have a dog fight, and I've seen that happen.
Yeah.
So it's hard. It's hard because people are going to do what they're going to do. There was a dog walker in my neighborhood that was going into restaurants for lunch and tying the dogs up outside, and I'm like, you can't do that.
No.
And the one dog got attacked. So it's a hard one. Sometimes people are going to do what they're going to do until something bad happens, and then
Then they
they're
call me.
sorry that they did it.
Then they call me.
They call
okay.
you. They call me to solve the post-traumatic stress from being attacked while being tied up, and they can't even run away.
Yeah.
But you can only tell people so much.
True.
And you've told us a lot tonight, Tina, and we definitely want to have you back on the show. Thank you so much.
Yay.
God willing, LA will not be pummeled with the predicted blizzard. We'll be thinking about you, and we're definitely going to have you back on because you're a great guest with a lot to say. I'm going to let this
Thank
guy
you.
over here.
Oh, you pointed right. Now you pointing this way. You're looking for water. That's how they do it when they look for water.
That's what I'm using both fingers because it's my screen direction and yours too. So take it away, Angel. You got the last word.
Thank you for being in our show. He definitely could have come back, right? So we
I hope
definitely want
so.
him
I hope.
back.
Please,
And,
I would love it.
And please, people, spay and neuter your pets. Do not leave them outside by themselves. Watch over them. And do you know where your pets are?
So that's it, folks. You heard it. Good night, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Angel, take it away.